Get the mic on a boom, of course, because he's a pro.
Wow. I like Jim's background.
Bash, bash.
Yeah.
Basharino.
Kind of feels spring-like over there.
We are live.
Also, that's from one of the cold hash bashes because it looks like everybody's in coats or something.
They're all cold from that side. When you're on the steps there, it's cold no matter what the temperature is.
No doubt.
You never know what to wear that day either, because it's
Yeah,
gonna get
I
hot
do.
in the afternoon.
Yeah, but you can take that shit off. You better have something warm on.
Yeah, you really should.
I know. We froze our asses off many years.
Yep.
Hey, check it out. First little bit of new production here for the new year.
This rocks.
Nice, man.
Does that rock?
It's a new font, and it replaces the star with a pot leaf. Very much thanks to Heather Curtis. Let's see it again real quick.
Good job.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. Look at that.
Boom.
Look at that.
Oh,
It's
Whoa, I like that little
sweet.
growth pattern.
Yeah,
yeah,
what
that's not bad.
Oh, look at that.
She does excellent animation. She's going to go with some more stuff.
love it.
So, Deb, why are you hanging out with Rick and Jamie's junk now?
That's a good
Because-
question. I'm so glad you asked that, Derek.
Because I need constant stimulation.
Something's
In
poking
these
you in the
trying
back.
times,
Time.
in
Is that
these
it?
trying times, you know.
Yeah, I'm with it. I understand.
See, but I like the way you recognize that right off, Derek, with no prompting, no cue cards. You just
No
knew what that was.
heads. No heads.
Derek's
No head, nothing.
Derek is an old school Jazz Cabbage Cafe originator. One of the first in the first studio episode ever. DG, thanks.
Hey,
Well, it
thanks.
doesn't mean that he's seen the cartoon before.
Oh, I know, no doubt about it. Yeah. So, welcome to Jazz Cabbage Cafe, everybody. It is the first show of 2021.
Oh, Shelly's here.
Who's here? You said?
I just saw notice that Shelly's in the waiting room.
Said that
All
you're
right,
the host.
Shelly's here too. This
It's going to be like a whole, crazy.
All right. This
I
is
haven't
really
seen her
like
in forever.
a bunch of
My
family reunion without any COVID. Nice.
my junk kind
It gave
of pushed me out for a second, it looks like.
It gave me the option of admitting her. I've never had that before. How
Right.
did I obtain the option of
It
admitting
said
her?
Deb Young became the host.
Yeah, when Jamie
No, stop.
Jamie's
It did
image
on my
froze,
computer.
and then he dropped out, and you got it.
I don't want to host anybody.
Yeah.
It said you became the
Because
host.
I have to keep getting up, and taking care of the dogs. I got to go feed them, and they start making
It went back
noise,
to
so-
Jamie. It went back
Good.
to Jamie.
Even though he's
Yeah,
now
I can't
frozen
take that kind of
again,
responsibility. It's too much, Jamie.
his image is frozen. It's kind of a weird looking image. Right
But it
now.
was weird. It said Shelly Smith is in the waiting room, and then it had the option to admit her or dismiss her.
It looks like he
Power.
froze again. Be
Yeah.
ready.
Power is
Host.
good.
I reached to admit her, and then I thought, wait, that's not my prerogative. I'm going to have to wait and see what Jamie says,
Show of hands. Do we let Shelly in, everybody? Yes? No? Yes?
I vote yes.
She's
but,
here. She's here.
I know
Yes.
she is.
Right.
I'm just-
Here, 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 here.
Deb, you're the host again.
I'm the host again. Okay, so I'm going to dismiss you now, Colin.
No. What did I do?
I wasn't given the option. Only Shelly. They gave me the option to admit or dismiss you, Shelly.
Power, absolute
And I don't
power
know why.
corrupts.
I never had that power.
Absolutely.
before.
Randomized power,
I
maybe
know.
even more,
It
maybe
goes
even
around
more
the
sinister.
table.
That
Yeah.
echo on your voice is even more sinister,
I
Shelly.
love it.
Oh my
Do
God.
it some more. Do it. Say
I have an
something
echo
else.
on my voice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's
yes.
really kind of cool.
You
It's
were
like a
Megatron
clown
for a
built
minute there.
thing.
It was kind of interesting.
Hmm.
Kind of like really your voice is really high or something.
Like a helium experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
that's
helium
cool.
experience.
I'm sure that's exactly what it is. So did we totally lose
What if
Jamie?
it's
He's just
been so
gone?
long? It's been so long, I don't know what I sound like anymore, and my voice has just changed. I'm just becoming a cartoon character.
Oh, she's going through.
That's what it sounds kind of like.
Yeah,
cartoon.
through COVID
Going through
puberty.
voiceopause, I guess, or something. I don't know.
That's
Covert
weird.
puberty. Your voice changes.
Congratulations.
You grow hair in weird places.
Congratulations, James. It's an achievement.
Ew.
There he is.
Hey, he's back.
Thank you.
For how
Am
long?
I off the
For
hook
how
again?
long?
My internet's down. I'm on my phone hotspot. So for how
Dude.
long is a good question. Yeah. But back on for now.
Well, go up to
Did you reboot
Donna's
your internet?
Donuts.
Shelly?
Go up to Thomas Donuts.
It's Dutch Girl
Asian
Donuts.
corned
You get
beef
some
has
free
got good,
Wi-Fi and just hang out on the street corner, broadcast from.
So does Asian
Woodward
corned
and
beef, and you
eight.
can sit in a booth and munch on some egg rolls.
No, not that Asian corned
No.
beef. That bus
Oh, you
stop is
can't
right
anymore.
there.
You have to sit in the parking lot. That's right.
That's
you
a
can't go
that's
in
a
there.
pretty creepy place where people aggregate. I'm not sure I'd recommend that. For
There's
Jamie.
two of them. Jamie lives in between two of them. He's like
Jamie.
centrally located in between two Asian corned beefs.
Jamie would be like
There's
an off-menu item that one of the guys would pick up.
Yeah,
You know?
because there's one just down the road in Highland Park
Yeah.
too, and then the
There's,
other
yeah,
one.
one south and one north of me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I said. You're
No matter what
surrounded.
direction I go in, I can get some Asian corned beef.
South
There you
Asian.
go.
Are you saying
Oh, true.
Asian corned beef?
Exactly. what we're
It's like an
saying,
egg
yes.
roll, but it's got like corned beef and cheeses. They have different
Yeah.
ones too.
It's a chain
Yeah,
restaurant in
okay.
Detroit. Super
Yeah.
good. Super
Yeah,
good.
real good.
But and they're famous for their
So-
corned beef egg rolls.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
hopefully
I've
this
had
will
that before.
this will stay on for a little bit, and I just kind of want to we have some good people coming up today again, and as part of this year, we're gonna have some shows kind of lined up a little bit in advance sometimes. And next week we have a good show coming up. We'll talk about that later on when Dr. Whitty comes on because he's been helping out with some of that. And aside from him, we have Julie Baird coming on. Of course, we got the luxury of having Colin and Jim here regularly, and they keep us updated, and we generally know what's happening. But it's always great to check in with her and see what's happening.
Is Julie coming on today?
She is
Yes.
very, very shortly too. Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yay.
and then also we'll promote and talk about the Entheo Show a little bit more too, and looking forward to that.
What a great name, by the way. Great name.
Entheo Show.
Yeah, and then Anne Schultz is going to come on too.
What's the Entheo Show?
It's a new show coming up that we will talk about
Okay.
during the course of the
You
show.
just- So
How evasive.
Jamie's not going to tell you now.
I gave you no additional
That's
information.
coming up.
My response.
Otherwise, we'll just ruin a
Teaser.
lot of good
Got
content for later on. And it'll be explained better by Julie.
Cool.
I'm sure.
So, I did want to kind of go over something really quick. It's a little bit more complex than, and I want to spend more time on it. We'll have subsequent shows where we expand on it. But I've talked about over the weekend. I was on a conference call yesterday, and it came up, and I was on and on Medical Mondays last night. I brought it up a little bit too. Between a really cool interview with Chef Anna. That was a really good show last night for those who may have missed it. And hopefully those guys will pop on today.
What a great personality.
I just want to talk about descheduling in Michigan here for a minute and kind of update people, give some background, update people on where the efforts are at the moment, and then, kind of pose a question from where things stand and some of the discussions I've most recently been in. I'm kind of biased, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to set this up in any kind of very balanced way, but I'll just give a background here that brings us to date. We passed medical marijuana law 2008. It became the official position of the state that cannabis has medical efficacy. Cannabis remains on the state's controlled substances list, saying that it has no medical value and is addictive and it's dangerous and all types of other stuff. So at that point, it was in direct conflict, and the newer law, wins out. And there's argument there to take it off the list, and it never was. Instead, eventually, it was also simultaneously added to Schedule 2 when being used for medical purposes. So the irrational placement of it on the list gets expanded on a little bit by another blatantly contradictory and illogical move by, instead of taking it off, which is kind of the solution and the only way of solving the conflict, they did an additional irrational measure to try to compensate. So lately there have been two efforts to change that. One is a lawsuit, Sinclair versus Board of Pharmacy, and Josie Scoggin, who was on recently, is also part of that lawsuit, and others. And it has gone through the Court of Appeals and has not won. Leave asked, requested for the Michigan Supreme Court. It's up in the air whether or not they will accept it. It has technical issues, standing issues and stuff. I'm not the expert on it. We can talk about this more later. And So it may or may not be picked up by the Supreme Court, and it's not likely to overcome its flaws. Now, the Attorney General is fighting against it on those technical grounds because she's representing the department that's being sued. But she says that she personally agrees that it should be taken off the list, and she would support legislation to do that. Does not necessarily support it being done through the courts. And so we'll find out what happens with the Supreme Court, but it might require a subsequent case, or there's an outside chance that they may allow some amendments and amicus and things like that to help bring some of those flaws into line in terms of standing and things. And it might still be able to go through. That doesn't seem to be as likely, just according to the people I've spoken to. And there's a legislative effort, and it's been attempted and brought to the Legislative Services Bureau, which is the organization that would write the language, to be introduced. And they claim there's an issue with taking it off because it would disrupt the regulatory scheme that relies on it to be there to cover ground for when the existing laws may not apply. So there could be some cannabis activity that goes down that's not covered under the existing laws, and it's out of bounds, like somebody has way more than you're allowed to have or something like that. And then it could just revert back to the criminal code, which is connected to that controlled substances list. And then the felonies and intent to deliver and all that kind of stuff could then, be thrown back on. And that could be for somebody who doesn't have much of a record and has like 3 or 4 pounds or something like that. That has happened. So we've had a huge reduction in cannabis arrests and activity and things like that, but this kind of stuff is still going on. There's still some CPS issues and stuff. And not only that, not only to fix those problems, but it does sit directly in conflict. And we're talking about this case is based just on the MMMA, the first thing that we mentioned. Since then, the MMFLA and the MRTMA have come into existence. And part of that, and getting that new commercial program up and running, was the state saying, okay, caregivers, throw cannabis that you produce in your car and bring it to these places, and let's bring it into the supply chain right now until we can get properly up and running. And that went on for a long time. Again, completely contradictory to how you would imagine handling a serious Schedule I drug in the state. So our activity, what people can do, what's been endorsed by the state, nothing about it is a Schedule I anymore. So we just need to take it off. But the concern or the argument is that it disrupts so much when you take it off that it's too complicated. And so that maybe by writing, one law that says it still stays on the controlled substances list, but it would somehow, effectively give the circumstances that we want. Like nobody would ever have to be concerned about some minor activity and then fall prey to getting nailed with all these felonies. Whatever it is. There could be, it would stay on the list, but there would be some way of creating an additional law that would effectively do what we want somehow. That's been the discussion. I haven't seen what that is or how that would look or anything like that, but that is seriously being discussed by people who are friends of ours, and we trust their opinion on these things and all that kind of stuff. So I say it's got to come off, but if somebody could present something that would solve the issues somehow, would that be okay? Or should it just come off because it sits in complete contradiction to the way that we use it and the newer laws that have come into place since it was placed there? What do you think, Rick?
Well, I mean, everybody on this call is going to say the same thing. It doesn't belong on Schedule I. If you have a schedule of drugs and you classify those drugs, then you must appropriately apply the classifications. And if you're inappropriately applying them, then they should be changed. The argument that Jamie has said that we hear from the Attorney General's office and others, he's right when he says it, but they're wrong when they say it. And here's why. Sinclair versus the state of Michigan in federal court. The state and Michigan Supreme Court decided that the cannabis laws were unconstitutional at the time. John Sinclair was then freed along with, I think, 200 other guys, all popped out of jail. And for about 6 months in the 70s, we didn't have any cannabis laws in the state of Michigan because the Supreme Court of the state of Michigan decided that they were wrong and needed to be fixed. The same situation exists right now. The law is wrong and it needs to be fixed. And if the Supreme Court were to decide tomorrow that it was invalid and incorrect, the legislature would fix it. they would make it a priority, they would jump on it, and they would get it done. So the fact is the legislature could fix this. So the argument that there are too many attendant changes involved with dropping it from Schedule 1, that doesn't hold water. We already did it once. We already did it once and proved that we could successfully negotiate it. Derek Gauci, you haven't been around for a while. Let's jump to you first, man. What do you think about this concept of Schedule 1, Schedule 2?
Well, man, I don't know. You know, this is, I don't want to say it's a biased show, but we all know how I feel. I think it should be all around.
You know, I'll admit there's a little rhetorical question here, but people are seriously saying this, so it's not the case for everybody. I
people on our side
predict that this would be the case for everybody here, and also, and not to like try to circumvent your answer, but Julie's here right now, and she only has a few minutes to join us, so maybe we can talk to her and then pick this back up again if that works for everybody. Hey, Julie, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good.
Good.
Welcome back to the Jazz Cabbage Cafe show, Julie Barron.
Thank you. I always get so excited when you guys invite me, so thank you.
Thanks for making time. I know you have a busy schedule and you have to kind of like squeeze it in a little bit here, so appreciate that as well. So we mentioned it earlier, you know, we obviously have the luxury of having Jim and Colin on here regularly. We get to hear a lot about what's going on with Decriminalize Nature and the world of psychedelics. But it's always great to hear from you directly and what's going on lately with you after a great year, what's coming up in 2021, and we'd also like to promote and hear more about the Entheo Show.
Saying it wrong.
I'm sorry.
First things first.
Well, so we'll start off by saying it correctly.
Yes. Okay. The Entheo Show, right?
Of course. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
Entheo. And you know, that came out of all the work that we've been doing here in Michigan, starting off in Ann Arbor with the Decriminalize Nature Ann Arbor movement, and then moving into Decriminalize Nature Michigan, which is what we've sort of morphed into, which we plan to, and actually are helping other cities decriminalize entheogenic plants and fungi in their local areas. And then we hope to move on to a statewide movement from there. The Entheo Show is really, this was Jim's idea, was a really good idea. And we're going to be doing every other week shows on Fridays at 4 o'clock. Yeah, and really, Jim sent me a really good description of it. Unless, Jim, you want to use your words.
No, go ahead, Jewel.
Okay. The Entheo Show was formed to continue the discussion into these highly medicinal natural substances. The program really is to gather people from all around the state and potentially beyond that. We really want to pull together the people who are going to be part and are part of the entheogenic movement here in Michigan. And throughout the country too. But we want to really educate people, talk about use, history, and culture of these plants. And so really nice.
Would this help to coming up? Okay, would this help to organize the groups around the state that are looking to do something similar, working with their local governments or doing a ballot initiative or whatever?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exactly right, because you know, we need a place where people are going to be able to come together. People need to learn from each other. We need to share ideas. We need to be able to build upon that. And this will be the spot where listeners can find out what's going on in their area and join groups in their area also.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, so does mushrooms or derivatives or something like that sit on the controlled substances list?
Yeah.
And is it?
I'm pretty sure the Schedule 1 too.
Also a Schedule 1?
Yeah.
So we were talking before you came on, Julie, about the contradiction in starting with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act and, you know, subsequent passage of other laws, and including the legalization law, and how cannabis still sits on Schedule 1 on the state's controlled substances list, and complete conflict. So these local efforts were to turn into a statewide effort, and it would be, something similar could possibly be. I hope that is the case, because that would mean we pass something, statewide. But also maybe we could start the trend of resolving these conflicts. Some other states, when there are these types of conflicts in law that result from a new law coming in, it's automatically resolved, and we don't do that in Michigan. So, now we're stuck with kind of when people don't believe that the law is otherwise covered, then or it's not, or whatever, then it resorts back to the criminal code, and people just for even small amounts of cannabis are still getting charged with felonies and arrested and all types of stuff. Yeah, so
that's what I was thinking. Like when you were kind of talking about what was going on, I was like, oh man, I wish I could just stick psilocybin or a couple other drugs on there and be like, oh, these are since this one is proven to be false, that there's no medicinal value. Like,
you know what? Hey, you just decided it, Cal. Instead of the conflict over one bill or whatever, we just change. We do what other states do, and we say when the newer laws create a conflict in previous laws, that's automatically resolved, and then it would cover that. And then we would be like other states.
The decrim nature approach, that really is a decrim nature approach, is not looking at one particular substance, so not even specifically just talking about cannabis, but talking about natural substances that grow in the ground or come from the ground, not always growing, but come from the ground. I mean, is that an option with what we're talking about with cannabis? Can we do the nature approach there?
Well, what I was
it is possible. Whether or not that would get support and all that kind of stuff, I don't know, but that's worth talking about, because one of the issues, and I'm sorry, Colin, one of the issues that came up about taking cannabis off the schedule was all the extra work that would have to be done in order to cover the ground that was disrupted, from the regulatory scheme that was relying on.
Oh, it's 420.
Reverting back to 420. Reverting back to the criminal code, I don't know, I lost my train of thought now.
You've covered the ground
Let's
pretty
throw
well.
all the plants. Let's throw all the plants in there.
But I think what I mean.
And fungi.
Happy 420.
So this would be a way of covering all that ground with one bill, and that would solve the problem for those who have that as an issue. Although it wouldn't eliminate all the work, it would be one bill, but it would still set up all the work of having to undo all the bullshit places where cannabis is specifically mentioned as a Schedule I and all that kind of stuff. So, but there's an area and it would be the same thing for entheogenic materials, or however the wording would be. That's that section, I could look it up, 302 something or other, and says right before the list, tobacco and alcohol are exempt. So one of the fixes is tobacco, alcohol, and entheogenic plants and marijuana are exempt, and then it's stricken everywhere else.
Yeah,
it's clear that cannabis and entheogenic plants have medicinal value and a medicinal history. Julie, you keep on top of the news. Didn't Canada just do something about entheogenic substances?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Canada started off by allowing specific patients.
They're allowing the doctors to utilize them in treatment systems now.
Exactly,
like less
therapists and
end
doctors.
of life kind of scenarios, I think, right?
I'm not totally sure, to be honest with you. I'm not totally sure. The one thing that I did see, I think I saw, was even additionally to that I think that the therapists and doctors are allowed to use it themselves in order to train, in order to help their clients. So that was interesting.
One of the things I just saw in Forbes, and also I saw another article in Wall Street Journal that said, cannabis investments, that's passé. What's really the new investment, the new hot ticket? Entheogenic substances, and the research companies doing work with them because of the potential for extraction and also for pharmacological usage. And they're really high on some of the very few players there are in the market right now, getting their foot in the door. What do you think about that? And I hope that's one of the subjects you'll cover on the Entheo Show. I know you're talking about usage and effect and history, but I mean, it would be sort of wrong to ignore that big, huge aspect of the subject matter.
Yeah, I would say we're going to cover that. I think that we're not going to necessarily leave anything in particular out. I mean, my opinion is definitely to work closer with the natural plants. But there's a big movement out there. It's happening. And you're right. There's a lot of people investing right now. A lot of people talking about investing. It's a pretty big thing. I'm curious, Jim or Colin, if you guys have any thoughts or plans to, I know we'll talk about news all the time, but do we have any specific thoughts or plans about including that?
You just call him Colin?
Well, of course. I mean, every aspect of you know, the industry and the movement and the culture, I think, should be looked at and taught basically from the perspectives that we can, any perspectives we can gain, really. Looking at, you know, things like, you know, yeast, and even going to the science of it, like yeast is a fungi, and they can actually make psilocybin from yeast. Imagine how much psilocybin you can make from that, you know, and things like of that nature that we can download to people and talk about, you know, what psilocybin is or what ayahuasca is, and get experts on there from our context. And keep it in the context of education and healing, without being too serious about it and making sure we entertain. I think that's one of the biggest aspects of this.
You know, we had Gus Rosania, professor from the University of Michigan, on a couple of shows ago, and he talked about taking cannabis to Mars. We also talked about, Jim brought it up, we also talked about entheogenic substances going to Mars because of the ease of propagation, the different values that they have, you know, from a food perspective, from a medicine perspective, their hardiness, and the small amount of packet that you would need to be able to seed a much larger colony. So the opportunity there really for mushrooms to be the space plants. I mean, you know.
Then we get out there, we start growing them in the space. People are like, yeah, we've had these for years. What the fuck have you guys been doing? Yeah. You're bringing it back?
Potatoes.
Where do you think the mushrooms came from to begin with?
Yeah. Welcome home.
I don't know how much we'll talk about, like, I guess the stocks and stuff of like the psilocybin trade. In a way, like I mean, with the news, we're gonna talk about it, and I mean, with the science that comes out, definitely. And you know, as more like legislation comes out, nationally and like throughout different states, we'll definitely be talking about it. But I know that Mike kind of wants to emphasize like you being able to grow, and like I can teach you, and a lot similar to like what the ethos of like the cannabis movement that we know and love.
Yeah, that's the new logo.
That's awesome.
Many
Nice,
hours
very
into
nice.
that guy.
Yeah.
Way to go, Jim.
Yeah, Jim. That is so cool. I'm just like, I just got lost in the animation of
It's
I know,
alive.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very
It's
cool.
To
alive.
say, I just spent the weekend with Mike O'File, and we were back up at Link's Run doing the Mycophilia book, and it was great. You guys would have geeked out and loved every bit of it. And two things. One is Mike told me that more mycophiles say fungi
Yeah.
instead of fungi.
Yeah.
But I just heard you guys say fungi, and then I was confused.
Well, Mike
because
is
I
a fun
remembered
guy.
that-
Mike
Yeah.
Like is a mycophile though.
fungi.
But
Some say
anyway,
fungi.
so fungi.
Some
So
say
the other
fungi,
thing
some say
is
Fungi.
he
Julie, you and Shelly might remember this. There used to be a band around Detroit called Pete Moss and the Fun Guys.
I don't remember, but I love it. But I feel like Rob would be, if you wanted to do some sort of statewide, either statewide entheogenic weekend or statewide decrim weekend, he would be all about it. He has a stage now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And is all about, wants to program out like things. He's all about it. So he'll be in Mexico for a few months, but when he's back, he's fired up. So
that would be great. What a good spot.
And Shelly, I think Mike's gonna like do a book club kind of thing, like a psychedelic book club. It's gonna be like once a month, but maybe like Reeds and Weeds can always like partner and something.
Well, I was just thinking we've done the ayahuasca book and the plant spirit medicine book and the mycophilia book.
We're gonna get you on that show too.
Already. Yeah. That'd be fun. Definitely. That'd be fun. That's cool. What a great name.
Yeah, and logo.
Great. And logo. Awesome. So good. It's so good.
Hey, you guys, I have to run. That's all of my time I've got today.
Bye, Julie.
Okay.
Bye, Julie.
Good to see you.
Bye, everyone.
I miss you.
See you. Thank you for coming on. We'll have you on soon. So Colin on the Entheo Show.
Got that right.
I caught it.
It's been a while since I've heard that.
I know, she slipped.
Yeah.
It's every week. What are you talking about?
She doesn't say Colin. Oh, Debra.
No, somebody does.
I never
Somebody
say
says
it.
Oh.
Do I ever say? I never say that.
Rick Thompson
I know
or Jamie.
Jamie says it mostly. I would never say
Not
that.
Derek, though. Derek's really cool about it.
Mistakenly.
Derek hasn't been here for a year, so yeah, he's been really cool about it.
Yeah.
When I realized that I was saying it incorrectly, I stopped doing it.
Oh no, you absolutely
can be
not.
cool, Shelly.
You absolutely fibbed right there. That was a total.
I'm cool.
So, our conversation before Julie joined in, what a great segment that was, though. But to get back to it, we were asking Derek about removing from Schedule 1 cannabis, and whether he thought we could get it done and what it would mean.
I definitely think it should be done. Definitely think it could be done, and it's nice to hear, that things are happening in that direction. So that's about as far as I know, and that's why I tune into this wonderful show myself. Sometimes I get the opportunity to get on the mic, which is an honor. But I tune in, I get all my information from you guys. Am I allowed to, or maybe you guys, am I allowed to say some words to the kind folks that are watching us right now?
Rock it out, man. This is a time.
That's what you're already doing.
Sweet. Well, yeah, you guys already know. Thanks for being here. This is Joshua. Thank you, man. And then you got John Schickler said Happy New Year's to the Jazz Cabbage crew. I'm just using my mic time to talk to these people.
I appreciate it, man. Somebody else who's spending more time and paying attention to those people who are chiming in like that.
Jamie,
I have no idea, but somebody should be doing that.
Mike's here. Mike O'Feely. Am I saying the name?
Mike O'Feely. That's who we were just talking about.
Yeah, see, he's here with us, man. Thank you,
that's
Mike.
who we were just talking about. Yay.
Yeah, shout out
we'll
to you,
definitely have him back on the show very soon.
Yes, I'm just happy to be here, man. You guys are amazing. And there's so many more people watching now. That's awesome.
Is it not true, Derek, that as this show grows and branches out and does some more things, that you're going to be helping out with some of that along the way this year?
Yes, yeah. Well, definitely, man. There's not a lot that needs to be changed. Like I said, everything about Jazz Cabbage is perfect. But yeah, maybe once this coronavirus and shit starts to settle down, we can get ourselves into a studio, continue the visual end of it, though. So before it all, we weren't doing any video. If we were to be able to one day come back together, it'd be cool to have some high-tech shit going on. And then on top of it, whatever you need, man. I think it's just be nicer to connect with the audience in a greater way, potentially stream on multiple platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So there'll be a couple things going down, but mainly just happy to be here with you guys, to be one of the not many, let's say 7 faces right now onto the Facebook thing. So you got the constant grid view up. So thank you.
We talked about just the other night about how this format allows us to have more people participate at once. No, it wasn't a critique at all. No, but we get more people to be able to participate right now, so that's pretty awesome. Jim Salame, as far as descheduling goes, your thoughts about that?
Yes, please. Let's deschedule it, not reschedule it, and let's get it just in line with tobacco and alcohol, if not with more freedom.
Right on.
So,
one of the things I think that I've mentioned this many times, but every time we talk about rescheduling or descheduling, I bring it up. when you perpetuate a lie, you destroy faith in government. Right now, government perpetuates a lie, and that is Schedule 1. Anybody that looks at Schedule 1 and reads it recognizes cannabis doesn't belong there. And not only has government been slow to do it or reluctant to do it, they've been absolutely refusing to remove it. Several petitions have been denied just in 2020 and 2019 as an effort to remove it. So when you ask people to have faith in government, but yet you show them a government that intentionally perpetuates a lie, government is spoiled. It's not valid. And that's really an issue. Debra, I was waiting for you to come back. You know, if we do have a studio, though, Derek, we have to have Debra's background as a mural on the wall. I think
it has to be the entire wall, ceiling everywhere.
Yeah, it could that for exactly. Not a spot without your junk.
Yep. All encompassing.
It's weird. Okay. Your arm is like disappearing into his leg.
I can do other things, but I won't show you that.
Yeah, I mean, I have one whole arm that's missing. I wonder where my one arm is.
Colin's reaching up and grabbing a bunch.
Do
we have a mural of my colon on there?
No, but I'll have one next week.
Please.
I promise you. Okay.
That's why Shelly's cool.
See?
Artist's rendition, I hope, not an actual photo, because
I think we should get get some sort of something, either a bunch of ways. Just
Colin MacDougall.
Drawing, maybe.
There will be one. I can actually get the artist who did this to create something.
We're already ruining the studio before we've even found one yet.
You want to see that thing? Where is it? I might not. No, it's not ready to go at the moment. Show.
All right. Well, as far as Schedule 1, let me just chime in real quick. Of course, we want it off of Schedule 1. For us to say, for me anyway, to say anything different would just be ridiculous. You know, my stance and how I feel about things. And I'm wondering if the people that Jamie's talking about who are suggesting this are the same people that pushed a bunch of other ridiculous shit on us that we have to live with now. I won't mention names, but I assume that that's who we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, how ridiculous to say, well, you know, we know it shouldn't be there, but it's too complicated to remove it. Bullshit. We remove it and we move it. That's what we've been advocating. That's on every list when you're talking about legalization. That's one of the major things right there. I don't see any other way. It's got to be changed.
And it can be done. Clearly, we have control over our laws. Oh, you just had to throw the whole thing.
There it is. What's on the wall now? Oh, it's the entire.
Mm-hmm. What are all those babies falling?
Those are lemmings.
No, they're lemmings. They're lemmings. I'm gonna
just do whatever Rick and I say.
Now with those stupid caregivers tied up with MI Legalized, we can unite our Justice League friends and get rid of home cultivation for good.
Oh my gosh.
2016, Ben was trying to portray us as trying to kill home cultivation.
Yeah, there's more than one of those too, Shelly. I'll switch it up to the two and next week maybe. That's the one. But Colin, I can contact that particular artist to create the Colin MacDougall mural. No problem. It'll be in this kind of format too. So it'll be quite
no
flattering.
way that will be an appropriate drawing.
Flattering it is. It'll be flattering, I promise.
Okay, as long as you put it on your background.
Colin's going to represent two superheroes now.
I want it to be like Colin's colon, and there's a pic Colin. And then there's a picture of Colin's colon right next to him. Colin.
We should make his superhero drawings.
And then a fusion.
Come on.
I was thinking of Colin wearing a cape with a couple of legs, you know?
It should be like Colin's colon, but like a butt.
The colon that takes no shit. Yeah, that's him.
Oh, wow. It has to. That's its job. Well, that's why he wants to be in politics.
It has no choice.
Because it's used to taking a bunch of shit. Okay, all right.
No free will.
I have to say that I wanted to get on today because I was obsessing over I kept looking up every article in the world about the Georgia phone call and the Georgia election. And then I looked up, like, the Secretary of State held a press conference. I watched that whole thing. And I was like, I got to stop thinking about this. I'm going to go jump on the show. And then, Jamie, I was totally triggered. I was totally triggered because you kept saying they're perpetuating a lie. They're perpetuating a lie. And I was just like, I can't get away from it.
Yeah, I've been really anxious about it too, Shelly. That's what I've been trying to get away from too. I've been trying to not put the TV on because I'm really anxious. What's going to happen in Georgia? And Trump, what the fuck, man? He's like the mafiosa now.
He's trying to.
He just called a press conference like, yeah, that's not true. And then the next thing he said,
this is what you're going to do.
Insane. And
find
this other thing,
find me those. Or
definitely not true.
Like in your bed. Shit.
Anyway, I feel better now, but when you said perpetuating a lie a few times in a row, I was totally triggered. I was like,
there's a theory that says that if the two people win in Georgia, the two Dems win in Georgia, that it'll put a lot of pressure on Pence to try and keep Trump in office through whatever machinations he has in his mind he can do, because then otherwise it'll be a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, Democratic presidency, and the Republicans would just absolutely hate that. So as much as I want to see those two seats flip Dem and have us get control of the Senate numerically.
Do you think Pence is going to do that? I don't know what he's going to do. At first I thought, no way he's going to do that. But then the last day or so, I'm thinking, he's going to do that.
It's just
he's going to ruin his political career forever. He's done.
I don't think he'll do it.
I don't see a
it won't change anything, but it's still going to be a spectacle. But it won't change the outcome. But it's still going to be a ridiculous spectacle if he does that.
Oh, and all these legislators that they're going to vote no, symbolically vote no. The same people that voted no for impeachment, the same people that have been pro-Trumpers the whole time, the same people that,
That's going to be my entertainment tomorrow. I'm going to watch this from beginning to end.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. I know, but I have to watch. It's like a train wreck. You're drawn to it. You can't shut it off.
Have you guys seen there's like a 2020 it's called Death to 2020. It's a Netflix comedy special called Death to 2020. It was hilarious. First of all, please watch it. It's hilarious. And Jamie, do you remember there's like this British girl who she watches this reality show called America on the news channel. she just talks about it like she's watching this ridiculous reality show.
Right.
And she just talks about
that probably is the perspective.
It's
Our
the
president
best.
is
It's
like
the
that.
best. You got to check it out. It's
like
I like the
Housewives or something. Yep.
I like the Lisa Kudrow character.
It's perfect.
That was pretty right on.
Oh my God, it was great. Watch it. It's good.
That just didn't happen. I'm sorry. I know that you want to believe that it happened, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. he plays the recording and she's like, I don't know who that is. Yeah, she's great. She's perfect. She's perfect. Anyway, sorry to derail. I'm fine.
Spoiler alert.
We derailed a bunch of times.
It's all relevant. We talked about how important the Senate is to cannabis law reform in 2020. If the House of Representatives has to water down their bills in order to get the Senate to reluctantly go along with them, we will have less cannabis law reform.
And the topic was not trusting government. Like if you deschedule something that you also say if you keep something on schedule that has medicinal value, then you're breaking down trust. Is the same topic in my mind as if you don't certify the election that was won. Right. That's also breaking down. It was in my mind. It's the same kind of slow degradation of trust, and the actions that can be taken by a few bold people right now could restore that. And so that's why it feels like the same topic to me.
We got corrected.
Yeah, I listened to that recording, man. It was quite sensational. I mean,
the phone call.
Yeah.
I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in Stacey Abrams down there, like turning people out, and I saw like the turnout that's already happened, and
for both of them though, it's kind of a tall order, but it's still a chance, so it's kind of cool. There was a time in which it was kind of a lot of people were predicting a split based on where things were.
Yeah, but what's looking good is they had real heavy turnout in the early voting, but today it wasn't real heavy. And this is when the Republicans come out, is today. The early people are, and if you look at the people standing in line, those people wanted to vote. They were in there early. They might pull this out in Georgia. That would be sweet to pull this out and then watch the Republicans pull a big spectacle tomorrow with Mike Pence. He has no authority to challenge.
It might not even, the results might not even be in tomorrow, they said.
Yeah.
Like, it could be like till Thursday.
Well, yeah, because they're going to make them count it like 20 fucking times, and there's going to be crazy people, saying they're burning boats, and, this is going to be really insane.
Yep. All of the crazy excuses. All the crazy things.
The Dominion machines inside them, the parts.
If you haven't gone down this rabbit hole, there was a press conference yesterday with the Georgia Secretary of State and an election official, and he basically just very calmly goes through the entire phone call and says, we're not even sure what he's talking about here. Yeah. He used the 300,000, but there were only 100,000 total of those things. So that one doesn't really make any sense. Like, he just kind of very practically goes through the whole phone call and says, this couldn't even really happen. This thing couldn't be hacked because it's not on a network. He's baffled. You can tell he's just kind of a baffled.
This was a Republican election official, right, in the state of Georgia? Because I saw somebody.
I don't know what he was, but basically just.
But these guys all backed Trump, and now all of a sudden they see that he's a lunatic, something that we all recognized many years ago. Come on, they brought this shit on themselves, and it's kind of, talk about karma. Some of these Republicans,
cuckoo. It's cuckoo.
Yeah.
A lot of people's political careers were going to be ruined because of their association with Trump. You can't erase what you put on social media. Your enemies have captured that stuff to use against you.
They'll have something. They'll have a tacky undercurrent following that keeps them powerful on alternative. They'll still be here. They won't.
Yeah. But they won't be as prominent. They won't have that empowerment that they have right now, because he empowered these weird ass racist, underground subversive people. They have always been there. They've just been down because the rest of us don't let them show their ugly heads. Now Trump made it legitimate, so this will cut them off at the balls. I think
he still seems an unlikely hero to them. To me, I still don't even get why he's the hero.
It's disgusting.
Trolls on
people that support Trump are white supremacists, though, too. They're just Republicans.
Did you see they
believe that there was a problem with the election, and they're fighting it, and it is scary because people aren't looking at the actual numbers or the facts and cross-checking other news sources, and they believe that the news sources that are out there are lying. So it's really hard to get through to some of those folks. It's a matter of understanding that they're Americans too, and that eventually the truth will come out. So we will all have to eventually come back together again. We have to remember that.
Well, did you see they arrested the leader of the Proud Boys, who was in Washington D.C. to lead one of these big protests? Yep. They said he's a destruction of property, and he was being sued by somebody. And when they caught him, he had an empty holster, but 2 live clips and an illegal size magazine capacity. So he is a felon in possession of ammunition and a speed loader. So he's not getting out for a little bit.
Yeah, they're all going to go back underground again, little by little, pushing back underground. But they're always going to be there. That's why people have to be vigilant. You have to be aware. But these next
couple of days, what the Trump boys, though, they're fired up. Those guys in D.C. My whole point was that now that you've arrested their leader, all you've done is you didn't cut the head off the snake. All you did was just cut it a little bit and pour some salt in the wound. Now he's angry.
Underground. Yeah.
So they're primed and ready to go. I'm concerned.
Are they going to be protesting tomorrow, you think, in Washington? There's going to be a bunch of shit coming down?
Yeah. The 6th is the day. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's... Yeah, well, on Michigan radio today, there was a lot of talk about the prep for tomorrow, and some restaurants closing, some places closing their business up because they don't, do you know what I mean? They just know there's going to be activity.
Sure. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think there's 3 U.S. Congress people who support this from Michigan. Tim Walden.
What?
Yeah, I read 3, I believe. I can't remember who they were.
Tim Wahlberg is one of them.
Jamie and I went and talked to Tim Wahlberg like many years ago in Jackson. He
Bergman,
was the worst.
I think of one of them.
I left Tim Wahlberg's office a message today about that and telling him I didn't agree with him.
He's ancient. He's feeble.
Well, the one person, one of them is a woman, I believe, and in her description is that these concerns of fraudulent activity or something, you know, it's still just stuff people have said. Nobody's produced any evidence. That's why that hasn't, you know.
No, and they've been in front of judges and, you know, yeah, in Michigan, but they've been in front of numerous courts and numerous judges. Nothing has nothing, not one single shred of anything. Nothing.
So,
how come Rick has nipples and Jamie doesn't?
What's that?
How come Rick has nipples and Jamie
Well,
doesn't?
I do, but mine just aren't not particularly excited at the moment.
Yeah, see, Derek hasn't been on the show in a while. We've discussed.
I'm always revved up. That's Scorpio, baby.
High beams around.
Yeah.
Jamie does the kind of the beauty queen thing where he sort of tapes them down when he wears a tight outfit. So he just borrows, you know what I mean? You can borrow that stuff anytime, Jamie. Anytime you need to tape your nipples down or tape them to an outfit, you can borrow that stuff. Just let me know. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
I just want to see you and Rick walk in a room in those outfits.
Several people have suggested we dress like that for Halloween. I mean, a couple of years. It was batted about, but no.
Yeah, for the
we can do it one day on here. You guys do that, and we'll all dress as other superheroes, or we'll make up
Alan represents two superheroes now.
I'll do it. I'm down.
C. Murder and Colin MacDougall. You're gonna have to decide which one you want to.
Which one?
Colin the colon.
Hey guys, but I just wanted to say again, hey, thank you so much for
redundancy.
I am
a superpower.
Hey Derek, thank you very much, man.
Seriously,
to see you again. Anytime.
Happy day, happy 420. Definitely decriminalize it. Thank you guys so much again. Rock and roll. I'll hopefully be here next week too. So thank you.
Lauren. Hi, Lauren.
Hopefully we can make it into the studio one of these days and get the super duper high tech effect.
Oh, it's going down, man. It's going down. So thanks you. Thank you guys. Thank you. Peace.
Bye.
Take care.
I just noticed that Derek's background was changing color. Was that something that he just started, or was I not paying attention?
Maybe you're the only one that saw that.
Okay. But it was like, you know, ombre-ing. Never mind, but it was.
Yeah, it was. It was changing.
Okay. See, Shelly's trying to make me look crazy.
Oh.
Doesn't take much either.
Oh, what a good day. You know, this is a good conversation. Michael Thompson should be released from prison before too long. They told us 30 days, and it's coming up pretty much any time now.
Oh.
So
Nice.
Wow.
30 days.
Such a great thing. I don't know what the conditions of his parole are going to be. I don't know what the conditions of the commutation allow, whether he's able to mingle with cannabis industry people or whether that's going to be forbidden. I'm not sure, but I want to get him on several radio shows as soon as we can once he's out.
I would be curious to know what it feels like, because he's been in jail for how long?
20 years.
20 years. So I wonder what I'm going to be curious about. Like, I want to talk to him in maybe like 3 months, right? I don't want to be all up in his business, but I really want to know what it feels like to come out into this society, this version of like cannabis in the world, the markets, the like, what does it feel like? Because I bet it's so weird. You know, I bet it's like time travel. Like you go in, you come out, and the world is completely different.
Have you ever watched, speaking of reality shows, there's a show called Love After Lockup, Shelly? It's people who are involved with people in prison. It's a reality show, and it's kind of weird. But it's true, though, and especially true with the girls. They come out, and they've been in there for like 6 or 7 years, and they're like frozen in time. You know, from what they were before. You can see it in the way their hair is, the way they're, and it's so true what she's saying. You know, people, 20 years is unimaginable, because I see these people and they've done like maybe 10 to 6, 7, something like that, and they just, it's like they're Martians.
Yeah. Well, here's, I mentioned on Medical Mondays last night, Bruce Lee to the Sweet Leaf just had a free coat giveaway with Clarissa Shields, the famous boxer from Flint. They gave away coats and hats and gloves. Wonderful, hundreds of people. It's a great charity, and it's literally within sight of the spot where Michael Thompson was taken prisoner by the police, right there at the corner of Robert T. Longway and Dort Highway. And Sweet Leaf cycles through more cannabis in a single day than he got busted for in possession. So the contradiction of the way things were versus the way things are now couldn't be more starker if you just look at that one particular stretch of Dort Highway, what happened and what is happening.
Plus, how could you block you from? But how could you be blocked from associating with people involved with the cannabis? It's a legal business right now. I mean, they can block you from using it, like they can block you from using it, or they can block you from using alcohol in probation. But can they say you can't be around any place that has alcohol, like in a store? You can't walk in a store that has alcohol. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They don't want you to have any influences. Jim's nodding his head. Jamie too. Yeah. I mean, they can, and under parole and probation conditions, they tell you that you can't have any association with people from your past life or from that world. You can't have any. You can't. In some cases, people were told you can't even walk in a bar. You can't go into a place where open alcohol beverages are served. So, I mean, they have great control over what you can and cannot do under the parole.
And they'll be testing you too. Yeah, that would be awful. I mean, that would be.
I know. To get out and be free for just a short time and get bounced back over some stupid thing like accidentally walking into a bar when you weren't supposed to. That's just so stupid.
Or someone firing up a joint around you.
Yes.
Surely not. I mean, surely not. Right.
That's what I would think.
Michael Thompson at large is going to have a lot of support. He comes out. He's got his daughter immediately. He's obviously has a huge community, even national community. It's in support of him. There's been money raised. It's not going to be perfect, but he'll be in considerably better shape than a lot of people coming out. But anyway, we need more people to come out. But
Last Prisoner Project, Redemption Foundation here in Michigan, and Michigan Cannabis Prisoner Relief Fund. So there's just tons of people out there pulling for him.
Dem Caucus and Redemption and Last Prisoner Project.
Yep. Welcome to Jazz Cabbage and Anne Schultz.
I was just thinking that maybe I'm going to have to say, I wonder if Anne's making it on. And then as I was thinking that, you came on. So you are here.
I am here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while since you've been on the show. I think you came in the studio once.
That was a while ago.
Yeah. I think that was last year,
at least.
Wow. And so, and of course, you've been engaged in the media side of stuff to some degree and doing a lot of the real estate side of stuff in cannabis.
The real estate stuff is exciting. It's competitive. It's a lot of different things. It's competitive to find the space, because what you and I were talking about before is by the time most people hear that a municipality has opted in, the properties are tied up already. So, getting ahead of the game is key. And how do you do that,
If the property is for sale, after it's one step away, somebody who knows that it's in the proper zoning and that kind of stuff got a hold of it. Now they're turning it around and saying, what normally is have you noticed is the markup on that? What's the green zone?
It depends, because for, let's say, areas where the municipalities have unlimited grow and processing, obviously we like to work with clients in that because it's just less BS to cut through. On the provisioning side of things, of course, that's where things always get complicated. And there's always more red tape, more ordinance rules for that, whether it's, being a certain distance away from residential zoning, drug-free zones, and then how they measure the distance, whether it's door to door or parcel to parcel, it just really depends. So when people are looking for properties, those are the types of things you definitely want to look for. Look at the ordinance first to make sure that you're going to be compliant. I've come across too many clients where the aftermath is that they now have property that is not zoned, or that it qualifies, but it violates some aspect of the ordinance, and now they're sitting on property they can't use.
And that's why they need a cannabis real estate professional like yourself. Which firm are you working with right now, Anne?
What's that?
Which firm are you working with?
So I'm on my own. I'm independent. I am brokered through EXP. But like I said, I'm not in a brick and mortar building per se. You know, I kind of move around wherever. Got to go where the action is. So statewide.
Have you noticed an effect on residential housing values, anything like that, as a side effect of cannabis activity in some areas?
I don't know if it's a side effect. I was just looking at some study that was done earlier last year, February of 2020, whether residents that are near zoned area, if they felt their property went down in value versus up. I wouldn't say that it's down. Like in the case of, let's say, I think it actually just depends on the redevelopment, on what municipalities have approved, where they are at in their master plan. And what's more interesting is how cannabis can help, right? By bringing in businesses in areas that otherwise, you know, would have nothing. So, but we're just still seeing a steady, if not increase, like in industrial properties. You know, that has not been affected at all. For COVID, you know, we see a lot of retail and office space kind of like go vacant, right? But that's not the case with the industrial warehouses. We love our warehouses. Those are definitely going strong, and it's again, try to find those.
So there's a cartoon going on. The background is pretty interesting. Kind of getting lost in it.
Where's the cartoon?
Yeah.
Is there a cartoon in the background of someone's?
You have a daughter or a son in the background?
I don't hear it though.
Maybe it's Deb.
It's Deb.
Oh my gosh, Deb.
I was thinking it was you.
Well, I was thinking it's funny because the noise.
It's not me. I don't have anything on and my microphone was off. So it's not me. And I don't have any children here. There's no TVs on. Nothing's on. I was in the kitchen feeding my dogs. That's all.
Are they cartoon dogs?
Well, you know, it's not a big deal. I was enjoying listening to it actually a little bit.
That sounds awesome.
Those dogs are definitely fun. Cartoon dogs. They are real.
Sounded fun.
So, and so it's a dynamic story right now. We talked about all the different license types, you know, cultivation, provisioning center, or cannabis retailer. But one of the most exciting things is the social use lounge. I know Jamie's gonna join Kalkaska opening up a social use lounge, and not every municipality has zoned for them yet.
Right.
Is that one of the biggest challenges you face? Is just municipal participation right now?
Sometimes, because like if they're opted in, it's like the traditional licenses that we are familiar with, the grow, the transport, provisioning stuff. So some of the stuff on the rec side, like I said, micro businesses, I'm seeing more people wanting to look for space for that. And then like you said, for consumption, but still limited. Same thing with if you're going to do outdoor grow, like true outdoor grow, again, limited on the municipalities that have opted in for things like that.
What about special events? I know that's a very unique type of a
That
license.
one's very unique. I've probably only come across a handful of places that do that. Again, you're going to have to be in an area where it's conducive to have something like that. Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things that is a space that I think might be utilizable for that is some of the unincorporated zones, which are in between traditional municipalities. They fall under the jurisdiction of the county, not any specific village, town, or city.
Right.
So it's possible that you could find something like that.
I believe there's plenty of loopholes out there that exist. We just have to find them. Always
new laws. New laws are fun for that reason. But
yeah, I've got a question. I wanted to know Hi, Ann. I'm Jim.
Hi.
I wanted to know what you think is the ratio of people looking for property that are coming in from out of state compared to locals that are looking for property to get involved in.
If it is, for me, at least for me, it's been like the growers are from here, but maybe their investors are out of state. You know what I mean? So, but it's still I haven't had anyone that's been completely out of state. Yeah, I take that back. On the dispensaries, I have a couple clients that are out of state. I'm seeing a lot from the border states. So people from Indiana, people from Illinois, kind of looking and wanting to kind of hover around the southern municipalities, Sturgis, Niles, you know, out that way, and maybe not wanting to go any further than say like Jackson, Battle Creek, Kalamazoo area that way.
Southwestern corner of Michigan, where the
I'm definitely seeing some influx there of people trying to, you know, wanting to hover close to the border. So, but the thing with that, you know, even though that allows accessibility to put your business there, you know, again, I tell people to look at your business model, right? I mean, sure, you can be profitable, but is it going to be enough for you? You know what I mean? If you're in a border town and there's nothing else around there, you know, is that business model, is that going to be sustainable if you're just relying on border traffic or whatnot?
Well, and when dispensaries come to the larger cities and there's no longer a need for you to go to the rural area to get your cannabis, then your personnel just drop right up. Irish Hills, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's hard to predict out because you might vest in somewhere now just because it's the only, or it's the closest area that works for you. But 6 months from now, oh, guess what? They just opted in, and now you just already invested and started where you were when you could, you know, it's so hard. It changes.
Well, sometimes we talk about it in this industry as a race towards the expressway, right? Who can get closest to the expressway? Because the first place off the expressway is where everybody wants to stop. So it's who's closest to the exit ramp. That guy wins. Same thing with gas stations. Exactly the same thing. You know,
I think too, though, like if areas like, let's take that for township, for instance, right? I mean, you got like the Bermuda Triangle out there from Dort, Saginaw, like where they're all kind of gathered. I think if areas are known for having a concentrated areas of cannabis businesses, then people will gravitate towards that. But then again, it just goes back on the individual companies and branding and marketing, doing all of that. But yeah, because you can go to the one that's off the expressway, but if they don't have what you want.
Yeah, I think that's important because I think cannabis as consumer, it's just, they're different. They're not like, you go to any gas station, you're going to pay a little bit more right off the highway, drive a little further in, it's going to be cheaper. But cannabis consumers want to find their bud. They want to find their strain. They want to find what they're looking for, I think. Right,
and that's why I can't wait to see more micro grows pop up and see, you know, how they're going to carve their space in the market as well. You know, because are you going to be that mass, like we always say, are you going to be Anheuser-Busch? Are you going to be Bell's Brewery? You know, like where's your niche? Where do you guys place your business at?
Certainly there's a sense of competition in the marketplace right now when there was a big race to get as large as you possibly could, as fast as you possibly could in order to achieve this perception of market dominance. And those people are going to have so much overproduction that it's going to keep the price low for a long time. One of the concerns we've had about the micro business is profitability. If you're limited in the number of plants you can grow and limited in how you can transact with other MRTMA licensees, difficult to see how that might work, but there's potential that it could get redefined what their plant count is. Instead of having just 150 plants period, they could have 150 plants in flower, and that might give them an opportunity to be more aggressive and more market competitive.
Yeah, I think it's just understanding that business model because it is very different. Some people say, well, why don't you just get a Class A? You know what I mean? Like, why don't you just do that? Understanding that those licenses cost more money, you know, so I don't know. Again, just understanding what it is that you want, your structure, and setting yourself up to succeed, you know. And
are there any people, have you seen them doing sort of boutique model? Like when I think about a 150 plant grow, is there anything that restricts them from marketing to a place that only sells boutique? Do you know what I mean? It's pricier. Can they sell directly into like
that? To me is like any other retail business model, right? I mean, if you're going to do craft boutique and you're going to make yourself known for those particular strains and you're going to only get those at your place, right? Then that's where I'm going to go because that's what I'm looking for. But that's what I'm saying. You as a micro grow are not going to try to compete against somebody that's got 18 stacked seed licenses.
Right. You're just trying to be the boutique person for a little tiny chain.
The overall experience that the client is going to get walking through your doors and that whole thing. Like, you know, you put a whole bunch of dispensaries right next to each other.
I'll open up a laptop
over time, people are going to go
Yeah. Yeah.
So we lower the volume just
Of course. Here.
We've been joined by Mike and Gail Whitty at this point.
Right.
Hello, Detroit.
Hello, Mike Whitty,
Dr. Detroit
himself.
We miss you guys a lot, and we miss Detroit. And thank you for having us on. And I want to just praise Rick and Jamie in particular for all the things they do and are doing 7 days a week. So you're frontline heroes from my book anyway.
Thank you for saying so.
I appreciate it. Now on this show, we have a couple of people that are leading the way for the psychedelics and the Entheo plants and stuff like that too.
Almost got it this time.
He tried.
Yeah. Well,
the first part was there. The first part was solid.
Sovereignty.
Yeah.
See, I can learn sovereignty.
Colin and Jim are in the house here too. So,
what's up, Mike? Good to see
well,
you,
look, listen, I went to a mushroom church in Oakland, which was a kind of neat. There's another cannabis church here in Berkeley called Cannabis Café, and so it's just a little color from the Bay Area, and California is, one of those trend-setting places, and Ann Arbor sets the trends in Michigan. So we're making progress on all fronts, and I'm particularly proud of all you folks with the Cannabis Caucus making progress with our Attorney General and now the Last Prisoner Project. And I was told by one of the operatives for the Attorney General that there's going to be more good news for us in April, but he wouldn't tell me exactly what the good news is. But I can give some good news that even Chuck Schumer said he could get by with cannabis even if McConnell holds the Senate. So we might still make progress at the federal level.
Wow.
Regardless of what happens in Georgia tonight. And we have made progress, bipartisan progress in Lansing with a lot of good bills that have been passed to stop putting people in jail for lacking a license or having a unpaid ticket. So those are pieces of good news and rays of hope. And we have to take all the opportunities and challenges of the years ahead as positively as possible. I'm thinking of the governor's reelection in 2022 could be pretty tough. And I'm already having calls for the run-up in preparation this coming year for the big off-year election cycle and defending the governor, and maybe taking opportunities with Detroit's election, mayor and city council at 21 with an August primary that's adult use and lounges, smoking lounges, and maybe picking up a friend or two on the city council with a couple people retiring and leaving open seats. That gives us a chance to do some work right away. Can't let them take over Washington and have the militia run our country. We need to get a little better at coalition building and link up with other reform groups like Michigan Liberation and take advantage of whatever bipartisan outreach, like the prosecutor in Macomb, and the possibilities of ASA coming back as a chapter to keep the public's attention on the importance of medical cannabis and mental health angles of cannabis medicine, which is so helpful to all of us during COVID to keep our stress levels managed and our anxiety under control and just not go stir crazy. So I'm kind of optimistic here for the new year.
Good. How are things in San Francisco as far as reaction to the pandemic and some of the big numbers we're hearing about out there?
Well, yeah, it's tough. They've closed everything. You can go into a dispensary and buy your products and walk out with them, and there's delivery, sort of like in Michigan, but the lounges are shut. There are a couple lounges, just a few in San Francisco, and boy, would I have liked to sit in a lounge, but they can't open their lounge. They just don't want people to congregate, especially indoors.
In a smoke-filled room,
but,
yeah.
The cannabis people, depending on who you're...
Mike, could you bring the camera closer to your face?
Safety precautions. Yeah, just sometimes, dilemmas that you face, and you make the best of it. Out here, you can walk in the park and you can probably smoke with some freedom outdoors, although
Closer
that's
to your ear.
illegal. It's illegal, yeah. But
Mike Whitty,
San Francisco.
Mike, would you please hold the phone so that we can see your face and not your glass? There you go. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Mike. It was kind of funny.
That's right.
Got a close up of your ear canal, and you're all good for right now. You don't need another checkup for 6 months.
Yeah. Well, I'm hearing you're going to have Ed Rosenthal on your show next week. That's exciting. And Ed's always a provocateur, and he can raise all the issues of how overly regulated and overly taxed and overly restrictive all of it has been everywhere in the country, California and Michigan. And Ed has been an early critic of letting medical marijuana slip out of our control and letting it be swamped by big canna, and he saw that coming, and he's very much got a soft spot for the importance of medical cannabis, and it shouldn't be lost in the shuffle or sort of absorbed too quickly, so that we can gain more from the medical benefits of cannabis, maybe for cancer, maybe even for COVID, and certainly just for stress and peace of mind and things like that. The mental health aspects of cannabis haven't been emphasized, and it helps our image to have responsible use for mental health. That seems like a good talking point. And we're creating with Jamie's assistance and Brandy Zink a very healthy new chapter of Americans for Safe Access to keep the medical flag flying.
It's all true. And it is a pretty good group informed right now for that kind of stuff. And go ahead, Mike.
I got a call from Rick Michaels from Dana's shop, and they're interested. They're trying to raise money for her campaign with the governor next year. They're interested in our community doing a fundraiser sometime in the spring or in the near term of this coming year, just in case we bump across somebody who is okay with that and into it. That's one more bridge we have into the establishment and maybe a little better seat at the table. So I just share that because I just got my first fundraising call of the year out of the blue from Rick Michaels. And I thought, oh my God, that's all you care about is money. And I guess that's true. But on the other hand, it does put us in the game, or at least give us a further opportunity to strengthen our hand as a lobby or an interest group. So
they always love us.
People that
when we
they love our money.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it is part of the formula.
Yeah, I'm just a little anxious about the.
Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it goes with the territory. Just like if you were a lobbyist in Lansing, you'd be having wine and cheese and courting the legislature. So it's just part of the game.
Yep.
Which we're in.
Mike, were you going to say something about Georgia? It sounded like you started to mention Georgia.
Well,
yeah, Shelly.
Georgia's on my mind.
The election results getting derailed tomorrow.
He's from South Carolina, so Georgia especially scares Shelly.
Yeah. I would be very surprised and very happy if we picked up 2 Senate seats. But my practical gut, Jimmy the Greek better inside me, is doubtful that we can get that lucky in terms of turnout, because Trump keeps ginning up his base. He has a way in his own peculiar fashion of pulling his base and ginning them up like it was some kind of Ohio State Michigan game or something. We're the devil and he's got the Saints. And so that makes me a little bit worried about the ultimate result in a day or so of this Senate race in Georgia.
Well, if it doesn't go his way, I'll just call the elections official and say, hey, I need you to find me 11,000 votes, okay?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Call them up.
The precedent has been set. It's totally legal, totally fine. Trump did it, so it's okay.
Yeah. Well, and I hope we can get ready for our off-year election in 22. You know, those are always hard for Democrats turnout-wise, and the Republicans pull their base proportionately better in off-year. We could have, from the worst-case scenario, a formidable challenger. I was glad to see that that woman chose now to run for governor. What was her name? The Republican from the Thumb, Candace Miller. Yes, she just announced she wouldn't run for governor because they're looking for a strong woman to take on Gretchen. And you know, they could blame everything on the governor, now blame everything on Biden, and Biden could be like Jimmy Carter, a one-term president. We could have the militia take over the country and run it at our expense.
Ronna Romney McDaniel or Betsy DeVos, either one of the two.
I was going to say Betsy DeVos or John James probably would run again.
Biden's going to be in his late 80s if he goes at the end of his second term, if he goes that way.
Wow.
Oh, please let it be Betsy DeVos. John James, though, gave Gary Peters a run for his money, but please let it be Betsy DeVos. I would love to run up against her. Oh my God, she would have Betsy.
Yeah,
DeVos.
I think.
I know that would be hilarious.
It would be hilarious. She wouldn't be able to
It'd be
speak a
fun
word.
for a while. Be fun to make fun of.
She would probably win this for making fun of it, just like we do with Trump.
Oh my God, her interviews would be a laugh. It'd be like a SNL skit or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it's Betsy DeVos, because we'd have a better chance with her being a obviously extremist type nominee. James still a threat. He might end up running against Haley Stevens when they redraw these congressional districts. So we're going to lose one Democrat, or we're going to lose one member of Congress. It might not be a Democrat. They're going to redraw the districts. And that might put James and Haley Stevens in a face-off, which could be very formidable. Haley only won her seat by 2.4%, a close call for her. So
they're desperate to put him in office, no matter where. They want John James in office, man. They keep running that loser and keep running him. And
it is difficult to unseat an incumbent.
He's awful, Shelly. I mean, really, if you really looked at him closely, he was really awful. He was a big Trump supporter.
It just struck me as such a sad story to be like a guy that keeps losing.
They threw so much money behind him. DeVos money, so much money, millions.
Yeah.
You're talking about John James?
John James, yeah.
Oh, okay.
My friend told me he had this like a really big breakdown at the Detroit Athletic Club in front of like all these people at some match.
No, just
he reminded me of Pat
he
Miles.
Just is really he's really crazy. Like if like they just want to talk to him
I think
for
he's got
whatever.
That Trump thing, you know, that
come fly with me. Yeah. That always seemed a little.
I don't exactly know what happened, but I heard
he appeared on
screaming in the lobby area, and he was like, you know, I'm the Senate candidate. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm the Senate candidate.
Oh my God.
Oh.
What I heard.
Yeah, he was really awful.
Oh no.
Not exactly like that, but that's basically what he was screaming.
Sure. He wanted special treatment, is what you're saying.
Yeah. This was like when he ran against Debbie Stabenow, like
exactly
18 or something like that.
Wow.
Hey Mike, and we'll and we'll get back on the conversation in a few minutes and ask you this also. From the beginning of the show, Mike, we were talking about the conflict of cannabis remaining on the state's controlled substances list, especially as a Schedule 1, after all of the new laws that have come in and you know, how we think that it should just be taken off. Now, there's some talk of possibly creating some legislation that would not take it off, because some of the concern is that it disrupts what is relied on as part of the regulatory scheme and covers some ground where the existing laws don't, and that type of stuff. And instead of like addressing all that and unraveling it, maybe coming up with some language that tries to effectively give us the same results, but just keeps it on there for the sake of not having to do all that additional work and complicated stuff. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts. We've asked everybody. Do you think we should just take it off regardless of the complexity that might go along with it? Or would it be satisfactory just to keep it on, but be able to kind of effectuate, you know, the issues that we have with it otherwise?
and you get the bill you'd like passed, or you have reasonable likelihood? Is that bipartisan enough to get through the two branches of Republican control? If so, maybe that's end run. Jamie, what is the prospect of a bill like that having bipartisan support and sliding through?
Well, there's a lot of pushback on taking this approach because of what I just described. That it's believed that it's too deeply entrenched into so many other things and part of the regulatory scheme, and it's relied on to cover a lot of legal ground and stuff like that. So a lot of the legislature, even many Democrats, aren't necessarily interested in taking that route. Some of them are saying maybe some legislation that would, help solve the issue, but not actually take it off the list.
Might be acceptable, might be passable.
Right, but that's possible. But also there's a little bit of a philosophical question here too. Like it sits in complete contradiction to the other laws. Do you create any kind of justification to keep it there? Is part of the more of the question.
Is it within the discretion of the governor to take executive action, or must it come?
No, the board of State Department, the Board of Pharmacy. Through there, it could be done. In fact, that's the lawsuit is against currently, or it could be done legislatively.
Okay. Is there any possibility that could Biden deschedule, and could that allow the state to change their framework and be
the federal government deschedule? That'd be a very strong position to be in.
The states maintain a separate list than the federal list, so it wouldn't automatically change state lists, but it would certainly be such a commanding event that I think it would almost mandate that the states change their own lists.
Right, and it would put our state's list at in a more restricted position than what the federal government has, and so constitutionality of it could be argued in that direction. They want to keep it on
is
there.
It realistic can we at the state level across America and the allies and lobbies of ours in Washington, can we effectuate backdoor lobby of Biden to get him to deschedule, even if it's a Republican Senate? Do you think it's realistic in his first 2 years or first term that we can get him to, through executive action, to deschedule? Is that a long shot or within our reach?
I guess so. He wouldn't deschedule from an executive action, but he would make it like lowest level priority in the Department of Justice. But it takes an act of Congress to actually take it off of the list. Okay. From what I understand, not I need to be an expert, but had a discussion a few times. And that's what I believe it is.
I mean, we are sort of at the mercy of talking to people who kind of really don't want to do this. So some of their interpretations seem obstructive and overly complicated when perhaps there's a more direct way to do it. Certainly we know the method of how to change it, but the legislature's not going to cooperate, as Jamie mentioned. So finding alternative ways to get it done. I mean, the courts are the only other solution. You can't have executive order. You can't. Legislature's not going to cooperate. The courts are the way to go. But this particular court case Jamie was mentioning has a couple of hurdles to overcome, and it's lost at every turn so far. So if this one is not successful, we will launch another effort. Because, again, it's illogical to maintain this. To say something like it's too difficult for us to change it, so we're going to perpetuate, this illogical lie that we've created a whole system of laws around. The reason it's so difficult to change is because the war on drugs was so integrated into legislation and into the laws of the land that it's now like an octopus. It's like removing a tumor.
I got you. Well, let me ask one more hopeful question of Rick and Jamie and the rest of the crew, Debra and Colin. If they've done so terrific on these bipartisan bills to pull away from jailing people for fines and for not having a license, and we've got this bipartisan momentum of goodwill on criminal justice reform, can't we send some of our best lobbyists to these Republicans, and maybe even to our guy in Macomb County, and see if we can reopen a dialogue and make a few converts to carry us over this hostile past history and cook up some kind of a bill that they can live with and that helps us. I mean, I just wonder to what degree is there room for us to put our bipartisan hats on occasionally, and maybe some of us go over and talk to Lucido if he'll meet with us in the spring or something, just to see if they're okay with, if they're going to make all these cool, reduce jailing people and reduce people going into court, isn't there something more they can do to clean up some of the overregulation and harsh punitive remains of the drug war that still linger and are caught in our craw?
You know, it seems like there's still a lot of influence from police and prosecutors in the legislature and other state departments. Just in the news today, the governor is, I guess it's called a pocket veto, because she's just not addressing it, just letting it die after the time period, not signing legislation that was passed overwhelmingly in favor bipartisanly to allow first-time DUI offenders a break. And at least some sources believe that was due to influence from prosecutors and police.
Mm-hmm. Well, but let's be fair, though. When the Marijuana Regulatory Agency has a plan to unite the MMFLA and the MRTMA programs into one, and they were looking for citizen input, they came to myself and Matt Abel separately and said, we need you to get input from the community. We arranged that. We got the marijuana law section involved, Safer Mich. But Jamie and I have been involved with direct communications with the director, taking input from us on this potential thing. We were, I believe, instrumental in getting it stopped from being put forth to the legislature during lame duck. It had to have more corrections, and we've got that time now in 2021 to do that. But in that respect, I mean, we are working in a bipartisan fashion. I hate to think of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency as a partisan organization, but if you think of it not in terms of Republican and Democrat, but in terms of those who favor small business and personal freedoms versus those who favor big business and oligopoly, I mean, Jamie and I are on the small business and personal freedom side. So that's, in that respect, you can see where they are taking some input. Social equity program, they've got a lot of folks. They travel around the state doing their programs where they specifically bring this information right out to the communities that are most directly affected, which is the only way to really communicate with folks. You can't ask them to come to Lansing. So they are reaching out, and we're trying to participate as well. The legislature, on the other hand, really is in the old pay-to-play scenario, where if you don't have a lobbyist, if you don't have money and influence, it's much more difficult to get people to pay attention to you.
And there's lack of concern for constituency based on the gerrymandering districts that still exist, but that should be changed for the 2022 elections.
Yeah, and I still have fond memories of having Gretchen Whitmer right in front of me at Matt Abel's office for some little fundraiser when she ran for governor, and getting a chance to be with Dana at Matt's office too. Maybe we can do our own little baby fundraisers to get some of these people like the governor and the Secretary of State and the Attorney General in a room with us by the spring, in our presence, or at least more Zoom gatherings with them, and let them see that we're growing in strength, we're growing in sophistication, we're becoming more patient, we're in for the long haul, and we're part of their coalition. Maybe the windows of primaries and election cycles are always chances for us to get these people's ear when they're looking for our money.
Well, we are the doorway to capital. We're the doorway to capital, so I'm sure they'll meet with us for that purpose. You know it.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'd say it's a new thing for a lot of people. And in some areas, there's still a slow transition in how cannabis is viewed. And we're still working on that. In other areas, we've definitely made some great strides. And it's all coming together in the long run, it seems like. And it's I personally would like to see more from the governor and Attorney General on our issue in their first term. But I can't deny that they've done a really great job overall, and I don't know who I'd want otherwise in office for next time around. So I will support them and keep on encouraging them to do more for us.
Well, and maybe the criminal justice reform topic, the broad topic, that we're housed under in many ways. Maybe that's one of those lucky bipartisan issues that isn't a super polarizer and has a bunch of Republicans who look at it not only from the liberty side, but they also look at it from the taxpayers saving on the jail expense that drains the public health and the schools budgets by soaking up too much county taxpayer money. Maybe these jail reforms are just what the doctor ordered, and we can piggyback and expand and keep some Republicans putting bills out that are our bills or things we can support on the criminal justice side of things, hopefully.
I mean, it's difficult when the 2021 rolls out. We already have a governor who's at odds with the legislature. That sets a stage for conflict at all times. That's a treacherous battlefield to trod. The legislature's always out to score points against the other or to confound someone else's efforts. Instead of being a cooperative, they're in a competitive attitude. So I'm hopeful that the people that we have working in Lansing, which is not me, are really actually, are able to navigate that, because that is so difficult. Having to play both sides. You need Republican and Democratic votes to get any cannabis legislation passed. You can't exclusively focus on one party you have to pay attention to both. That's right. A lot of talking.
That's true. That's true.
I know there are a lot of different lobbyists in Lansing. Robin Snyder told me that there's a bunch of different lobbyists that the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association members have retained themselves. I don't know how many, but it makes sense that if you're a big corporation, you're playing around, you've got a bunch of locations, you'd want to have your own representation in the legislature. So there's a lot of folks flying around right now. Cannabis is a big deal. So hopefully, like Mike says, hopefully we can capitalize on that enthusiasm and push forward, especially since there are dollars attached to it now, real dollars for local communities. Director Brisboe was on the 420 Post with us early in December, and he said, once these checks start rolling in, you'll see maybe some municipalities coming to play. And I think he's right, with the checks being the reward checks from the taxation of the legalization businesses, which will be going out in the first quarter of 2021. Once people start to see that there's actual money, real money involved in this, I think more cities get lined up, and the cities that are lined up become more eager to play. Yeah,
and maybe we can have Hazel Park be our poster child. I mean, Hazel Park is sort of, kind of a remarkable story that indicates that you can have a prospering little suburb becoming a new Ferndale and doing just fine, and one of the best buys for a house in the metro area, a good location, and you can have responsible cannabis businesses located in your city. Maybe we show people through a couple success stories, they'll be converted, and we might pick up a couple more strategic cities that can flip our way in the year to come with a little backdoor lobbying from people on the ground who are locals.
And Mike, they also have Hayes in their name. So perfect.
That's it.
Well, I lived in Hazel Park for, 12 years and put kids through elementary school there. It's a nice little community right on 8 Mile. It's actually right in the corner of Oakland County. It adjuncts both Wayne and Macomb County. It's kind of unique in that respect. And that's one of the things that Wayne County's watching other communities adjacent to them take advantage of the recreational market while they're still screwing around doing ordinances and trying to figure out complicated programs.
So, of course, Annie LaCuro, from a longtime city council member of Hazel Park, has been in vocal support of cannabis reform for many, many years, even during some of the more conservative times. He's never really seemed to care too much about what people think about that. He's supported it. So, and then there was the visit from Tommy Chong to the BDT head shop there and the big event that they put on. And as part of it, they offered to key the city to Tommy, and he in return offered a joint to the mayor. She took it and danced around with it and put it in the other council people's faces and stuff like that. So That was a good day.
No, that was a lot of fun, actually, and all that took place right in front of a fire truck. They brought a fire engine out to, just to celebrate Tommy Chong coming in, and they kind of put on the dog, as it is sometimes said.
It's a party when they bring the fire truck.
You know it. They even flashed the lights. They didn't spray anybody down, which I was kind of disappointed at, but they did flash the lights.
So as Mike brought up, next week we are going to be joined by Ed Rosenthal.
And Mike let the cat out of the bag. Mike
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then when Mike invited Ed on the show for us, Ed specifically requested that he be joined by Adam Brook.
Right.
And then when longtime friend Rory Gould was notified by Ed that he was going to be on the show, he also made it known that his inclusion would be welcomed. And so we're going to be joined next week by, I think Mike's going to join us again, kind of hang out, be part of the conversation a little bit. And Rory Gould, Adam Brook, and Ed Rosenthal. So some people are going to watch.
Ed has gone to India a couple times. Oh, yeah. Ed has an interesting background. He's been to India looking at the hemp farming and ganja. He's been to Jamaica talking to their government whether they could get commercial about like the new legalization over in Jamaica. Not to mention his books and his growing and his strains and all the technology that he has in his horticultural background in his books. And then his kind of critique of squeezing medical marijuana out of the picture and cutting out the little people and the caregiver-patient relationship. So he still has that contrarian thinking, which blends nicely with Adam, our own godfather here in Detroit. So you're going to have a special show next week. There's no question.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I like listening to Ed.
The gathering of old guys. The smell of liniment and flatulence will be in the air. Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
That's right.
Zoom comes through here.
Liniment and flatulence.
So I remember I was, and I do want to get back to Anne. So Mike, you're welcome to hang on, but we're going to kind of get back on our conversation here. I really appreciate it. And of course, we're going to see you next week too.
You will. And thank you guys for having me.
So I remember when I was in the.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Mike. And say hi to Gail for us, please.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. I will.
Sorry about the flatulence,
Doug. Bye, Debra. Be good.
And you're going to be a part of that next week too. All right.
Yep. All right.
So I remember when I was in that auditorium at the old Clarion or whatever it's called now in Ann Arbor, and Rory Gould's good friends with Rosenthal. He oftentimes has arranged to have him come into town to put on these seminars and stuff like that. And it's when it was 2014 or something like that. It's when we first got news that for the first time a national credible polls showed over 50% support for full legalization for cannabis. And that was kind of during listening to Ed do a live presentation. And hey, Gail.
Hey, Gail Whitty. If it's California, how come you're wearing your jackets? Suspect.
San Francisco gets chilly sometimes.
Okay.
No, it does.
You turn a corner sometimes and it's really hot and sunny, and then you turn another corner and it's very chilly and shady. San Francisco is diverse like that.
I fallen victim to the myth of California.
No, you're thinking of SoCal. Hot and sunny down there all the time.
It's big. It's a big state. Stretches out real far.
Think about how many states are on the East Coast.
It's too many.
And then there's 3 over there, and most of it.
We didn't do a good job. We didn't do a good job. It's ridiculous.
All right.
And
look, I can see that right here. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Guatemala or something.
Yeah, just so
your map's
Anne,
not
thanks
accurate.
for joining us. I mean, my map is not accurate. What? That's not a Mercator projection. That's actual.
Okay.
All right.
It's Rand McNally, not correct edition. It's too big. Russia and Greenland and
Not to scale.
Canada.
True.
That's what you think. Okay. All right. We've heard your input. Thank you.
Jeez. Oh, jeez.
Mr. Model UN.
I am. Yes, correct.
I am.
That's right. And I went to Mexico City. There, yes. Represent all of us. The United States of fucking America. Yes. So, anyway, that was a long time ago. So, Anne, thanks for joining the show again. And again, wow, we
weren't in a technical position to like have him just wait for a second so we could finish up.
Right.
We know he doesn't really understand the technology.
Once he gets on, you have to take advantage of it because you probably won't get a second chance at it.
He's been doing it a lot more though, so I actually did get on and hear him the whole time, and got through it, and he lined up the camera toward the end, so he was right there. It all worked out.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah, that guy has done so many.
And he packs a punch. Do you know what I mean?
Just real quick. Before we get back, I just want to say that he's decades of drug law reform attempt, and he is very familiar with trying to get a little tiny micro incremental gain during the most conservative times politically. So when I'm sitting here anxious about really wanting to get some shit done, this is logical. Why isn't this getting done? That's not how politics works at all. It's not what drives the lawmakers or decision making or anything like that. He's very familiar with all that. That's why he was trying to get a practical solution for my philosophical question, because he's got no use really for talking about what ifs, because he knows that shit doesn't work usually. Go ahead.
Have y'all read the Notorious RBG book? It's do you know what I'm talking about? So
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the people that started that kind of iconic Notorious RBG, and she really loved it, and then they wrote this book, and it's a great kind of history of her life. But one of the great things about the book is the repeated way that they talk about her incremental approach to justice. You know what I mean? She's aware of, like, first you have to protect that one person, and then you have to wait until people accept, and then this incremental step, so the cases that she took and the reasons that she took them in order to make the huge strides that she did for things like, women not being fired as soon as they were pregnant, or women not being, that was her whole point, is the incremental pace of sort of changing laws. She wasn't trying to be radical at all. She was just taking very aggressive, detailed steps every day, so it's a great book.
It is, and I remember you talking about, you did that on your show, right?
No, we didn't do that. We just did mycophilia, which is about mushrooms. And
you didn't ever do that? You didn't ever do the RBG book on your show?
It hasn't even been out very long.
Okay.
So we haven't. We've done a few in November, December, and we just did the one up north, but we haven't done that one. There's so many books. Lots of books.
There are lots of books.
I'm trying. I've read 4 so far this year. So.
I'm gonna do another Graham Hancock book too.
Yeah, just let me know. Give me a title. I've got such a list going, and I read one I read one on my flight. I read one. I've probably read 5 books over the holidays, but some are short audio books, and some were for the show, but good variety. But I have such a list of recommendations, but I still want them.
I'm sure it was a cool concept, and it continues on now for a while, and people are still interested in it and keep on doing it. So it's very cool. Yeah. So Anne, if you'd like to, you've heard the discussion about the conflict with Schedule 1 versus some legislation, that could result without having to go through the whole hassle and complexity of unraveling it from the controlled substances list. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think for me right now, it's a little bit more micro than that. For us, at least with dealing with real estate, what it's scheduled at right now, one of the biggest things that we're running into is the challenge of financing and banking. You know, there are some places, you know, that will do private lending, or some places that will actually finance cannabis touching businesses. But again, I don't know exactly what those qualifications are, but for the most part, if you look at the prices of real estate, 600 to, you know, a couple of million. And because they can't go and finance, you know, how are you supposed to do that? Are you supposed to just whip out $1 million in cash and just throw that down? You know, people need that for their working capital. So then again, that just kind of allows us to, you know, like more work on land contracts and things of that nature. But that right there is like one of the things that are like in our face right now that we are trying to work around and find some solutions.
Yeah, and that's probably more you're talking about with that kind of banking and that type of stuff is more contingent upon there being a federal descheduling than
right. So
kind of the specific state question, but that is good. You know, I mean, obviously, hope you know that would be great if that could be if Schumer is correct and something like the MORE Act, even if McConnell, as Dr. Whitty was alluding to, it doesn't seem likely, but you know, it'd be very cool if that is true. Yeah. I would like to believe though, and based on that director from Students for Sensible Drug Policy on being on last show with Nick, you know, both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden right before the elections were saying that they are totally interested in descheduling, and they do have the power executively to make it lowest level enforcement priority with the Department of Justice. And she says that, you know, the groups there that are expecting that are going to put pressure on them to come through.
That's Rachel Wisner, who is the interim director of SSDP, and she and Nick Zettel joined us last week from Washington, D.C.
Right.
That episode's available on YouTube.
But that, you know, could help pave, and there are people who are working otherwise on the banking issues in Washington, D.C.
How do you guys
tax issues?
How do you see that trickling down? So say it gets descheduled, then what? Well,
then there's not conflict between state and federal law, and a lot more people are able to, or people feel more comfortable and are able to then operate.
Yeah.
Well, what it really does is it triggers a whole cascade of additional changes that'll be taken. The Federal Regulatory Commission has to change their rules because they don't just reference Schedule 1, they specifically reference cannabis-based businesses in order to incorporate all different aspects of it. So they have to change those rules because it's no longer Schedule 1. States have to change their individual state schedules as well too. So that individual change on a federal level has...
That's saying, how long for it to trickle down do you think from when they do that to when we actually see implementation?
Two questions. First of all, if it's still a COVID world when that happens, longer because everything is delayed. But secondly, when you have people that don't have to change something, but they kind of should, right? They're oftentimes going to put that on the back burner. And unless sometimes people get sued, they don't change things. And in fact, here in the state of Michigan, when they do get sued, they don't change things. So it depends upon the willingness of that particular organization. They could do it right away, or they could really not make it very important to them.
It makes me think that cannabis is the only industry in this nation that's using like paper money right now during COVID. Everyone's charging it, buying it online.
Yeah. Remember when the secure transport industry was originally envisioned when we were drafting the law that became the 2018 Prop 1. It was originally designed to haul these huge hordes of cash that the cannabis businesses were going to be taking in, millions of dollars in cash, and that's why they originally thought they needed big armored vehicles and things like that too. Yeah, they'll haul some cannabis, mostly cash. And it was also floated at that particular time that they collect tax at that location between the cannabis cultivator and whoever they sold it to, whether they sold it to a processor, whether they sold it to a retailer. They wanted to collect cannabis tax right then. Now, that would have made those particular secure transporters hugely important because they would now be the arbiters of tax. And then also, of course, if you did that, then the only people you could allow to do that would be people who are already federally allowed to collect taxes. And there's only one group of people in Michigan that can do that, Jamie. That's the tobacco people, right?
Yeah, like some of the conditions in there were really ridiculous at certain points of the draft.
So that was a methodology by which the Wild Bill's tobacco people thought they could get into it, take over the secure transport industry because they would be the only people that had those official tax collection certifications in the state. state, and they almost pulled it off if we hadn't been so firm.
Right, and if it wasn't for those meddling kids, and possibly segue it into the distribution model. That was also kind of thought of during the course of that strategy.
Yeah, that's exactly what they tried to do. And just to go back to topic, oftentimes we see service providers like plumbers and people that sometimes real estate professionals like yourself need in order to make evaluations of buildings or to perform basic improvements prior to putting something on market. Are you finding that there's still resistance from tradesmen, in essence, from working with cannabis businesses any longer?
I don't think so. I think everyone's pretty much on board. It's on its way to, in some shape or form, get mainstreamed, right, over the course of the years ahead of us. So I think more people are, because like you guys were talking about, the legitimacy of it, the money that's involved in it, the politics that are involved in it, very real. So I think we're starting to see people that are more curious or more open, you know, and willing to work with us, you know. And again, like I said, we are starting to see some banks, some smaller credit unions and things like that kind of step up and, you know, start dealing with us. Whether or not we'll see someone big like, you know, Chase or anything like that step up to the plate, you know, that would probably have to come like what you guys said with the deschedulization of that.
All right, we're going to have to start the wrapping portion of the show here. How can people contact you? Yeah. Colin, go take off on those beats that Rick is laying down.
I was rapping, like
okay.
The show up.
Right.
Silently rapping.
And he was rapping.
Interpretively.
Rick was rapping or like beatboxing or something.
Beatboxing.
And then Jim's going to do a little Dino in the background.
Yeah.
All come together for us.
So, Colin, Jim, Colin, before we bug out, Entheo Show, talk about that real quick.
I wanted Anne to let people know how she'd be getting a hold of her if they want some real estate inquiries.
Oh, yeah. You guys can like either just call or text 810-444-9476, or you can just go to the website, which is www.schultz-realty.com.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have you back on, get some updates on what's going on with the commercial real estate world and other thoughts and insights.
Of course.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good to see you, Anne.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, I guess where was Rick? Is he frozen over there? Or just staying in one solid spot? There he is.
And now he's got his eyes closed. He's opening them, kind of.
There he is. Okay. Restate the show details. Obviously, not Entheo.
The
not Entheo show.
No, it's not the Entheo show. It's the Entheo Show. It's going to be Friday, January 8th on the Entheo Show Facebook page. There'll be a link from the Decriminalize Nature Facebook page to get there. And this week we're going to have Julie, Mike, Colin, just kind of like, it's all going to be a work in progress. We're not professionals like you guys, but we get a lot of our inspiration from you. And we're hoping to educate people in the state of Michigan throughout the cities to help them with passing decrim laws in their neck of the woods.
So that's great, man.
Organizing that as a state and educating people at the same time.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
The first couple shows, we're going to have people from Detroit, Grand Rapids, and then Marquette come on, and we're going to talk with them. And also the founders of the decrim movement out in Oakland. They're going to be on the show as well.
Yeah, Larry.
And very cool. Yeah. Nice. That definitely works. Shelly, you have anything you need to let people know about or get on record before we sign off for the day?
Oh, you're on mute.
Oh man, I bet it is so incredibly profound too. We're just missing out on it.
No, what's funny, I did like a virtual 51st jokes the other day, and wasn't looking at the little scrolling chat. And parts of the show, people were going, "Your mic's hot, your mic's hot," when we were on and then others, they were going, "We can't hear you, we can't hear." And I was figuring out all this technology for like 30 something comedians popping back and forth and me introducing them and everything. And what I was saying when they couldn't hear me was, I can't believe how well the technology is working. I can't believe how well it's working. And they were just saying, "Hey girl, we can't hear you, your mic's off." But yeah, I am looking for like a marketing co-host kind of person for Reeds and Weeds, because I had someone and they are gone, and I got someone else that I thought was going to be a great fit, and they're just not. So if somebody loves the idea of, you know, working on a show where they smoke weed and read books and banter, and they like social media and want to partner up, then, you know, message me. I would love that.
That'd be fun for somebody who could take that over.
Yeah.
So, Deb, got anything to leave us with?
By the way, Deb's screen makes it look like I'm hiding behind a wall.
Yeah.
Like near some sort of portal too. Like you get to come out of it.
Greco-Roman. I was thinking, you know, Adonis kind of a thing. Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to keep the dogs calm. Yeah, I don't have anything. I'm gonna retreat to the news stations and really get myself worked up into an anxious ball tonight.
That way.
So I sleep not at all tonight, and I'm just terrible tomorrow, and that's the plan.
Here tomorrow.
Might as well throw some more on it, you know, what the hell.
This is our last real time to have election anxiety this year. So those of us that sort of crave it, because we're political files,
I
this
just
is our
want
last
to wrap
fix.
this shit up.
Way to wean yourself off here.
You know, I agree with Deb. I just want to wrap this shit up. I want to go to bed tonight having a good idea of what's going on, not just because CNN told me in a 30-second snippet what's going on.
And then wake up in the morning and that's true.
Yeah.
It's true what you saw. Yeah, we'll see.
Yep, I'm worried about
that.
that.
Before we go, I want to thank Native Cultivations, because Tony and Mark sent me some sample stuff from their product line, some pre-rolls with filter and some topical. And I did smoke one of these this morning, and it started off a little rough, and I was like, this is not any great improvement than what I've experienced, but actually a couple hits in, it started tasting pretty good.
You got used to it.
Yeah, I liked it. And then started feeling like high. I'm like, wait a second, am I getting high off of this? And then I realized I had a shitload of honey in my coffee, and I was starting to catch that.
That's how you do it. You honey up the coffee and smoke half it. There you go.
Yep. Hey, I want to give credit to Vlasis Labs. They sent some CBN to me and a hat, and also the Botanical Company. They incorrectly spelled it on this one, but it's the Botanical Company, right?
That's awesome.
It's more descriptive of the people who work there too. Obviously, Botanical Company, Relief, Redemption, Overgrow, EXP Realty, ASA, NORML, Michigan Cannabis Business Development, everything. Weeds, Medical Mondays, the Entheo Show.
Yep. Planet Green.
Entheo Show.
Why is it so hard?
No, the word
once
sounds
you get
like
it
that.
wrong, it'll always
So
be
now
wrong.
for sure, Colin, you know that when I was saying colon for so long that was sincerely a mistake.
It was not sincerely a mistake. It was a too long running gag. That's what
it's like jazz lettuce.
Now that was
like
fun.
Jazz lettuce show.
When Tom and Bob mentioned on their show that one of their kids listens to the Jazz Lettuce Show to keep updates on cannabis world. Love being misquoted. That's great. So, you know, thousands and thousands of views. Look, Jamie.
420 post.
Oh yeah. I said that 420 post. Planet
Okay.
Green, Spoken Rope. I got them all in there.
Everything. Okay, good.
It's
all right. Well, hey, thanks everybody, and looking forward to Friday, the first Entheo show. Perfect. All right, see you guys. Thank you very much, Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Have a great night. Good job.